The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the Sports Guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Hey, welcome to the BS Report. Friday afternoon, day after one of my favorite days of the year, the NBA Draft. I am in the studio with Joe House. What's happening?
What's happening?
We stayed up last night. We watched the draft. I typed things. We ate a lot of meatballs and sausages and pasta. And then I made a coffee at about 7:30,
Oh,
so to give me a little boost.
yeah.
And I think I didn't fall asleep until 3.
Oh, that's
And then I woke up at 7 to make sure nothing weird happened with my column.
well.
So I'm a little out of it.
Yeah.
You
Well,
might have to carry the podcast. What happened last night?
good luck.
It's
I'm
all,
going to
it's
say
all splotchy.
I'm recovered from the draft, but I'm not recovered from the news you shared with me on the ride over here, which is
I
the
did.
split between Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes.
I know.
I'm not sure.
In college, we used to have this thing called WATFO, which was the acronym for what are the effing odds. And it used to be something like, we'd have some drunk guy threw up on our hall. Oh, WATFO, that guy threw up on the hall. Like it was just a way to sarcastically say, of course that happened. What are the odds? And WATFO took a life of its own. We've gotten 25 years of mileage. This divorce was a WATFO.
It was an all-time
It
WATFO.
was a good WATFO. It was a good divorce WATFO.
I honestly, if somebody needs to create the master book, which is a bet you can make 10 years ago, a way to keep track of bets that
Well, like social bets.
yeah, like social bets.
Like you can bet on a divorce, you give it over-under. Like they get married.
That's it.
You give me a 4.5 year over-under.
Yeah.
And we just kind of hold on for
I
whatever.
honestly, let's put this to Wilds. This is a half-baked idea. It's not an idea. It's just a germ. It's a fledgling.
Social props.
Something. Yeah. Social props. Sure.
Social props.
But somebody's got to keep track. That's the key.
Yeah.
I'm sure we made wagers. I mean, I'm sure we didn't, we over-under
With the best
number of kids.
The best site would be a website that basically served as your virtual bookie.
Yes.
And you
that,
just
now
text
you're
them and
talking.
you're like, give me odds on this. And
Yeah.
they say, all right, I'll give you that. And then you go.
But it's-
You know what I would do? I would bet we're doing a post on this on Grantland's Hollywood blog
Oh.
about who Cruz's next girlfriend would be.
Cruz's next girlfriend.
Cruz's next girlfriend. Cruz never goes long without a girlfriend.
Oh, I guess it's important for his brand.
He likes to have girlfriends who are usually up-and-coming actresses.
Okay. Oh, I like this.
He, Nicole Kidman. It was actually way back when Rebecca De Mornay,
All right. He
Mimi
started
Rogers,
with her.
Nicole Kidman, Penelope Cruz,
All right.
Katie Holmes.
Sure.
He likes those up-and-coming actresses in their late 20s. So we, on Grantland, decided we would have fun trying to figure out maybe who the next celebrity girl, if he stayed to that pattern.
Yes.
Emily Yoshida, our new deputy editor for the Hollywood Perspectives blog, she picked Blake Lively.
Ah, that's right at the very top.
Awesome pick.
Yeah, I totally agree with that
Awesome
one.
pick.
I'm in.
So she claimed that one. I was a little jealous.
Yeah.
I took Minka Kelly.
Oh.
I'm really excited about this one because I think he goes transitional girlfriend here, but yet a name.
Oh, okay.
Not somebody like a marriage or maybe have a kid with type of girlfriend, but like a fling.
The only thing with Minka, I wonder, does she have any like post-Jeter residue that brings her down a notch? Is there
Well, you
any
always think-
stink?
Is there any post-Jeter stink? Interesting. I mean, that question could be interpreted a lot of ways.
I only mean it one way.
All right.
This is a G-rated.
So, if you look at the pattern of people who have kind of fallen for Mr. Cruz's charms,
Yes.
usually people at a specific point of their career
Oh.
kind of help them.
Uh-huh.
And I
To
think
boost.
either on the rise or maybe they need a little bit. Like Katie Holmes was post Dawson's Creek. Kind of, Michelle Williams had passed her.
Oh.
She's needed a little boost. And and just magically the cruise showed up, and they had an awesome connection.
All right. Well, connection. Yes, they did.
That's what I'm calling it.
It was a connection.
It was a connection.
They were connected.
And 6 months later, she was a Thetan 7. And I don't know. I don't know those Scientology.
I don't either. I don't make jokes about it.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't make jokes about them, but I don't want to be killed. So
that's it.
Maybe we'll edit this out. But so yeah, maybe Minka Kelly kind of the Jeter thing ran its course. The movie with Leighton Meester didn't work. Leighton Meester, another Cruise girlfriend candidate.
That's a pretty good one. I like that one too.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be Blake Lively though.
Yeah.
I think she's with somebody. She's lived with like Ryan Reynolds or somebody, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is, he went cruise.
Yeah.
He went a little Latin.
Oh, Penelope, you meant.
Yeah.
Oh, he could go back in that direction.
Cruise, or maybe like African American would be a bold Tom
That'd be
Cruise
great.
move.
Sure.
Hasn't done that yet.
No, that's right. He needs to.
I was thinking like
maybe for him at this stage of his life.
Maybe like a Zoe Kravitz type move.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
I like her.
Yeah. Or I don't know.
I can't think of other. Right. Who are some
Rihanna would be the Jacoby's screaming Rihanna for the other. Rihanna would be the all-timer. The problem is Rihanna is like 9 inches taller than him.
That can't be the problem. Katie Holmes is 2 feet taller than him.
But Rihanna's taller than Katie Holmes.
She is?
Yeah.
Is that true?
I've actually been in restaurants that both of them were at separately. And I always, how fascinated I am with heights. I always try to stand up to see. And Katie Holmes, I'm going to say, was like 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
I've written about this. She was like really striking.
Yes.
And I'm going to say I saw her twice right before she started dating Cruz, and she was super cute and tall.
Okay.
And just attractive.
Yes.
Rihanna was like tall to the point that I was like intimidated.
Wow.
Like she's at least 6 feet.
So she's much taller than Chris Brown,
man. I just that's too much women for me.
Well, I think that's.
I had a 6 foot girlfriend in college. I'm too old now. I can't handle a 6 footer now.
I think that's a problem with Cruz. Cruz can't handle her. Nobody can tame Rihanna. Rihanna's untamable right now.
She really is.
There would be a very short lived, supernova kind of relationship.
It would even be short lived.
I think you can do it both ways.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Rihanna and Cruz.
That'd be good. I like that one.
What would be the most shocking Cruz relationship?
Wow, that's hard to say. I
mean female.
Nicole Kidman.
Oh, a reconciliation.
Yes.
Wow.
After both of them have won off and had kids with other people.
I think most shocking would be if he went super young. Like if he went like Miley Cyrus, Demi Lovato level, like 19 years old kind of thing. Because he's 50.
Yeah, but he's not that crazy
Actually, he
yet.
might be like 52.
He's not that crazy yet. He's definitely at his 50s.
Yeah.
But he's not crazy enough to go that, to really...
Well, I'm just saying, like, what would make the internet and society basically recoil in horror? I feel like Cruz dating a 19-year-old would...
I think you're probably right.
I'll tell you this, though. He's not gonna hold off for long.
He won't be single for long.
Cruz likes to have girlfriends.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I like it.
There's not a lot of overlap. There's not a lot of Tom Cruise playing the field for a couple months on end.
Not a lot of downtime.
Yeah. I'd be interested. I wonder what movies he's been making. Because sometimes the co-star...
Got to be another Mission Impossible, right?
Yeah, like maybe the one from the last Mission Impossible or something. Wow, did we get sidetracked from one day draft talk? Coming up in about 10 minutes, Chad Ford is going to join us. Because America hasn't heard enough from Chad Ford.
Well, he's got grades.
500,000 Chad Ford. The draft ends. Chad Ford, 12 hours later, is breaking down the 2013 draft. Settle down, Chad Ford. Give me a week.
That's his thing. I love it.
I'm going to make fun of him for it when he comes on.
No, I love it. Why take a break?
Week? Can we just digest the 2012?
All right.
So, first overall pick, Anthony Davis.
Yes.
By the way, I have the annual draft diary is on Grantland.com if you missed it for some reason. It's the 16th.
Wow.
Which I just couldn't believe.
I can't believe it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
The first one I did was at my dad's old house in Wellesley. It was 1997. It was the year that Chauncey Billups and Ron Mercer were drafted by the Celtics.
Wow.
And I handed it in that night on like a 28K modem.
You handed it in to AOL Digital City, right?
Yeah. It was probably like the 4th column I ever wrote.
Digital City Boston.
Them. Yeah, something like that. It was like the 4th column I ever wrote, I think. And what's funny is I used an AOL email address, which I still have. so it wasn't that crazy.
You've got mail.
But yeah, it was both of my dad's dogs that are in the diary are long dead. Like, it's kind of amazing. But Chauncey Billups we had for 48 games or something, and we traded him.
Yep.
But so over the years, I went through a stage, I'm going to say like year 9 or year 10, where it's like, every joke's been made. But at this point, who cares?
I agree.
And it's like,
right. It's tradition.
You try not to repeat jokes, but there's always enough happening. What's interesting, I can't remember. I had something in there that I can't remember if I kept in or not, but it was about how the NBA draft has become like pro wrestling.
Oh.
It's very meta.
Okay.
Like even like Jay Billis like makes wingspan jokes, but
right.
knows that we know he's like, it's all like everyone who's involved with the draft kind of knows how we're digesting it.
Yep.
Including the people, how they dress. Like,
everybody's in on the joke now.
Like think about like in the like 2000, 2001 range, like that time when Drew Gooden was wearing the suit that just didn't have buttons. It looked like a big.
It was great.
And my dad said, "That's it, doesn't have buttons." But now it's like all the guys are nicely dressed.
Yes.
They all say the right things.
Yep.
They have the right type of people in their entourage. There's nobody like, everybody behaves.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, that's why last year's draft with Washington's own Jan Vesely
stood out so much. Yeah.
Right, because it was a unique, spontaneous moment where everything else feels so rehearsed. And honestly, it led us to a bad bet last night. We went for girlfriends. There were no girlfriends.
We had a hot girlfriend pool that I was so excited about. You, me, and Jacoby. Jacoby was with us. And we each picked 4. We did snake fashion, 4-round draft. And I thought Jacoby jumped a little too quickly on Bradley Beal.
I don't know. I thought that was fine.
No, but I mean, I felt like you kind of liked him a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
I like him. I'm glad he's in Washington.
He was just clearly Jacoby's first choice. You've been eyeing him for a while. And then I almost took Tyler Zeller and then rescinded it and took Austin Rivers.
The great thing is we're talking about this, but we cannot discuss on the air any of the criteria that we used in making our picks. We can't talk at all about any of the rationale that went into it.
Yeah, really.
It's not
and
appropriate.
It wasn't even coherent. But
it was incoherent and not appropriate for even a mature audience.
But we should have opened it up to sisters, I think, was the big mistake.
Yeah, well, that's next year. Best sister. But then you can look it up. I mean, we didn't know.
I thought when Jacoby was trying to scout everybody's hand size, that got a little weird for the picks to figure out how good the look of the girlfriends would be. Well, it was funny, though. Anthony Davis didn't go till the 15th pick.
Yeah, well, because there was a lot of for some of the reasons you've covered already. This is well rehearsed, and presentations, everything. There's not going to be a spontaneous moment with him.
I have a feeling out of the 16 guys we picked and we saw nobody's girlfriend, I bet at least 12 of them had girlfriends that probably wanted to come and were told you're not coming.
I actually think that the girlfriends were probably there. The bunch of them had girlfriends there, just not at that table, not at the family table.
You think there was
family
a girlfriend
and friends.
table?
Yes, or girlfriend green room. Because there's no green room anymore. All the girlfriends were in the green room.
The other thing, you and Jacoby were my peanut gallery. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist gave that interview.
Yeah.
And he was like totally overcome with emotion by getting picked by the Backpacks.
Yeah, he seemed blown away.
Which we thought was funny because it's such a terrible team. It was like you realize you're going to play with Bismack Biyombo and Gerald Henderson. So I had a whole thing about it where I ran the transcript. Had no idea that he had a speech impediment.
Yeah,
and actually, if you read the transcript, it was making fun of how overcome he was, but it was just close enough that I didn't want anybody to think we were making fun of him.
Yeah,
because we don't do that.
Obviously, that's not our shtick.
So I took that out after the fact, but I feel bad about that. Plus, he's my favorite guy in the draft.
Right, I know. All we did was talk about how great he is.
Drink his Kool-Aid.
Right. We're totally in on him.
But yeah, that was.
It's unfortunate, but it wasn't deliberate.
Here's what bothers me. No, it wasn't deliberate.
And he didn't stutter in the interview.
No,
that's the thing.
He was genuinely overcome, which was what we thought was the funny part. But it could have been translated differently. But what's interesting was I feel like I prepared for this draft as diligently as I've prepared for a draft in probably since the Durant draft.
Yep.
I was on YouTube for 2 weeks researching all these guys, and somehow I didn't know about that NKG overcame that.
Well,
I feel stupid. And you didn't know, and I guess whatever. But I kudos to him. I always feel like I always thought Bill Walton was an amazing thing. Like Bill Walton had like a severe stuttering problem and became an announcer.
One of the most articulate guys.
I always think that's amazing. When
I love
people
watching
overcome
him.
That.
Yeah.
But all of this obscures the real story here, which was Charlotte made a good pick. I wrote this in the diary, but we're all stunned that the second team in the draft took the second best player.
It
We're
was
like, whoa,
stunning.
oh my
It was.
God,
It
look
really
at Charlotte.
was. It was an electric moment.
It's like, of course they should have taken him.
Yeah, he's great.
But I thought that was great. And then your team, the pathetic Washington Wizards.
Yeah, right.
They took Bradley Beal. I did not put this in the diary, but so Magic Johnson and I did a podcast.
Yeah.
And Jacoby and I afterwards, we loved the way Magic Johnson said my name.
Yeah.
Because my name is Bill. It's one syllable. Magic Johnson stretches it out into 3 awesome syllables. And I can listen to him say my name forever. He calls me Beal.
Uh-huh.
And we thought, so Jacoby just started calling me Beal.
Yep.
Bradley Beal became the number 3 pick. And they kept saying over and over again, Bradley Beal. And Jacoby would go, Beal!
Yeah.
And we just thought this was like, we just got such a kick out of this for some reason.
I know.
But,
I will tell you, as an outsider coming into it got a little tiresome.
Oh, we beat that in the ground? Well, Jacoby and I have been beating the ground for 2 months.
I appreciate it. I mean, I enjoyed it the first 60 times.
I haven't really had a nickname from anybody in a while. Like in college, I was Simbo.
Yep.
That kind of faded away. Everyone here calls me Bill. I was excited that somebody was calling me anything other than Bill. So Jacoby calls me Beal.
It's a good nickname.
It's weird when pickup basketball when he's trying to cut for an open pass, screaming Beal.
It takes too long.
Yeah, it's 3 syllables.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. And then just when we thought the draft was really in a groove, Cleveland took the biggest 6th man of the year, Dion Waiters, with the 4th overall pick. Not a terrible pick, but I just feel like Thomas Robinson has to get taken there.
Well, it was a need pick for them.
I don't think you take need picks when potential all-stars are on the board.
Well, I think they think that Waiters is a potential all-star.
But this is something that I mentioned this in the diary, and I think it's a really important point. Last year they took Tristan Thompson 4th.
Yes.
Who was like an energy guy.
Honestly,
not somebody who's going to make an all-star.
Well, we've probably seen the ceiling already.
And by the way, just for the Cleveland fans listening, yes, you're right. I thought they should have taken Derek Williams over Kyrie Irving last year. So take my opinion with a whole salt shaker.
Yeah.
I'm not a draft genius, but the consensus was that they should have taken that Lithuanian kid, Valanciunas or whatever.
Yeah, Valanciunas. Jonas Valanciunas.
Right, because everyone thought that was the one guy other than Irving wh really had a chance to be a multi-all-star.
Yep.
And Cleveland's rebuilding anyway. What do they care? Take that guy's stash and bottom out for another year.
Sure.
Instead they took Thompson. So then this year comes around. Robinson's a better player than Thompson. Like he's gonna have a better career. They pass him up and they take Waiters. So now they've made a mistake a year ago and then compounded that with a second mistake. And it's not like franchise damaging, but still, like if you're going to look at those 2 picks and go, what would you rather have? You'd rather have the Lithuanian kid and Thomas Robinson. You just would.
With Kyrie.
That's a nice foundation.
Yeah, I don't.
It's not an awful foundation what they have, but
and they have Zeller too. I'm not sure. I'm not ready to.
Were you saying that ironically?
I guess it could be taken both ways. I don't think that the nucleus that they've built, the young nucleus they've built.
No, because they have Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
He's
transcendent.
He's on your top 15 list of guys you want. So after that, you have your number 1 guy, and now you're filling in. But I don't want to bury Tristan Thompson. I'm not sure what to expect from him. But
I feel like we know what his ceiling's going to be.
I think he's an energy guy.
Right.
I think, is he a guy, does he play 35 minutes a game in the pros? Probably not.
I don't.
He seems like he's like a 6th, 7th guy ideally on a great team.
That's what I think too.
Yeah. So I don't think he's your 2nd or 3rd best guy.
Waiters has to play. Waiters has to be one of their second.
Waiters is interesting. Waiters might be. I remember Chad and I talked about this a little. Like it's like a Tariq Evans thing. He might be a guy who's overqualified to be your 6th man.
Yes. And
slightly underqualified to be your guy who shoots 20 times.
Well, I'm telling you, the guy I watched, I really like the Draft Express website. I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's give a shout out to them.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
No, we like Jonathan Gavidi, even though I haven't been able to pronounce his name in 3 years. No, they did these.
The website is tremendous.
They did these little 8-minute videos that I showed you, and I had to go out yesterday because we had a 30 for 30 meeting.
Right.
And you stayed in my house. And you watch those videos for 3 hours, and they're awesome. They're all 8 minutes. They all had the same beats, so you know when to come in, and they strengths, weaknesses, comparisons.
Great stats.
It was great.
Yeah,
it's
really good.
I think the guy who did it is named Mike Schmidt.
Oh, okay. Well, he did a great job.
Or at least that's who I think did it. But what a fantastic job. I kind of actually was mad that we didn't have those on Grantland.
Well, maybe you could work something out.
I might have to snake
Gavinny. You might have to hook that up. Anyway, so watching the one on Waiters yesterday, I kept having this reaction. I don't want to use this name because it sounds it's a stretch, but he was very Dwayne Wadey. He
was a little Dwayne Wadeish. Yeah,
he was very. There was a lot of D Wadey out there. I mean, he goes to the rim hard and he finishes. He's a good finisher, and I also liked his court vision.
Oh, so you think maybe that was a good pick at 4?
I think there's a very sound logic if he, and I also really like his size, 6'4", 220, like that size for that kind of player. Whoa.
Yeah, every year I'm wrong about a Cavs pick. Maybe this year it'll be I'll keep my streak alive. The thing with him though, when you start nitpicking, should the guy have gone 4th or 8th, like whatever.
That's what I think
for me,
too.
the big thing is I just feel like Robinson had more value.
Sure. I understand.
Maybe you make Sacramento think you're going to trade out of that pick, or maybe they tried and couldn't pull it off. But here's my biggest issue with it. Do you need a guy who has the skills that he has when you already have Kyrie Irving?
I think the answer is yes. Very complimentary, don't you think?
They're both guys who break you off the dribble. So does it turn into a dueling Branjo's LeBron Wade 2011 situation?
I don't think so. I think that you can work that out. I think they're more complimentary than we'll be stepping on each other's toes.
You're making that assessment on 8 minutes of YouTube videos?
Yes, I am. That's my professional opinion.
Should we be worried at all that this guy didn't start at Syracuse?
No. I think that's a system thing.
Oh, really? That's what you think?
It's
a system thing?
I trust Boeheim. Boeheim has made pros. There's a lot of pros that have come through Syracuse.
He didn't start at Syracuse.
What's that? I don't. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care anymore.
You don't care that he didn't start?
Manu Ginobili hasn't started for the Spurs, and
it's college. He's in the Big East. The Big East was mediocre last year.
He got the minutes. It's not like he had diminished minutes. He got the minutes. He got starter minutes. I don't care who starts and who comes off the bench.
I wrote this in the column. The Marvin Williams thing kind of scared me.
What's the Marvin Williams thing?
Because Marvin Williams didn't start at North Carolina, and everybody was like, no, he would have started anywhere else. But it's like, he didn't start over the 5 guys that they had, so that's got to mean something, right? And now Marvin Williams sucks. So that makes me nervous.
I don't know.
I think maybe that's what he ends up being, an awesome 6-man, and that's what, who we should ask?
Who?
Chad Ford.
Yeah, let's ask Chad Ford.
We're on Chad Ford's busy schedule, and we're going to ask him right now. Jacoby, can we call him?
It's Chad.
Hey, it's Bill.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
You're on the podcast. We just called you and you're on. This is live. We're rolling.
Live. All right.
First of all, how dare you already bring up the 2013 draft and post that? For God's sakes, I'm still digesting the 2012 draft. Can't you give me a week?
Over, Bill. It's over. Move on.
No.
I want to know, Chad.
There all has been.
When do you sleep?
Oh, that's my buddy House, by the way. He's with us.
When do I sleep?
Yeah.
As soon as this podcast is over.
Your body clock must be. I saw you were on Mike and Mike yesterday or 2 days ago, but you're on Hawaii time. What is your body clock right now?
I've been flying all over the country. It's nowhere. I just don't sleep. I just eat M&Ms.
That's it. Well, tell me what your night was like last night, because all the trades we thought might happen never happened, and there was no jockeying, and the 2 trades that ended up happening were pretty boring. Did you feel like something big was going to happen or no?
Well, yeah, I think we felt twice that we were on the verge of, I don't know if big is the right word with trades. The trades, Cleveland and Charlotte were talking down to the wire. I thought they were going to get the deal done. All signals pointed towards it, and so when the number 2 pick came and it was Kidd-Gilchrist, my initial reaction was, okay, Cleveland traded up, and we were wrong about them wanting Bradley Beal. It was their guy was Kidd-Gilchrist.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until then when I texted the agent for Kidd-Gilchrist and asked him if he was a trade, the response back was, I think so. And so clearly they hadn't been clued in by the Bobcats that they were actually going to the Bobcats. or maybe that was just wishful thinking on the part of Rich Paul. I mean, it could be either one of those things.
Right.
And from there, that changed everything. The order played out perfectly for the Sacramento Kings, and it played out perfectly for the Warriors because the Cavs had soured on Harrison Barnes, and so Dion Waiters jumps up. Now Thomas Robinson falls into the lap of the Kings. That was the one guy that they wanted there. If they didn't get that guy, it also screwed Daryl Morey, by the way. If they didn't get that guy, the Rockets probably get the number 5 pick in the draft. They trade and get Andre Drummond, and they start to have the pieces that they wanted to make a run at Dwight Howard. And, after that, I think the draft pretty much went to form. We knew Perry Jones was going to drop. We reported that story yesterday that he had a meniscus issue in his knee, so we knew that was coming. We talked for weeks that Jared Sullinger was going to drop, so that wasn't a big surprise. And, after that, it was a pretty mellow night, but I enjoyed it.
I don't think Daryl was trading up to get Andre Drummond.
You don't? Who do you think he was trying to get?
I think he thought there were 5 guys that were in the top tier, and he was hoping that any of those 5 guys, would fall to that 5th spot and they'd grab him. But I think the Kings were attached just to Robinson, and maybe if
That's true. The second part's true. I think the first part was that there was unlikely to be, if there's 5 guys, well, I think they would have taken Drummond because when you try to get together a package for the Magic, it's tough to give them a number of small forwards and 2 guards for your dominant center.
Yeah, but here's the thing:
you needed to replace him with something.
But couldn't he have made that same offer to Toronto at number 8? Like Toronto, you and I both like Terrence Ross, but they reached for Terrence Ross at number 8. Like I feel like Toronto could have traded back, picked up 12 and 16, and probably still got Terrence Ross at number 12.
I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure that Daryl kept calling teams in the top 10. It just it didn't happen. I agree with you that I thought the Raptors was the first. How do I say this? Panic.
It was a reach.
Panic.
It
was a panic move. It's I got Dion Wait. We have Dion Waiters on our board. We have Harrison Barnes on our board. We're pretty comfortable one of those guys is going to fall to us. Oh crap! Neither of them are there. Who else can be sort of like that? And you take Terrence Ross.
The thing that
and it was a reach, though I like Terrence Ross. I mean, I don't think it was a massive reach, but it was a reach.
What's surprising me hearing you guys talk about Drummond this way and Drummond as a potential target for Daryl as part of a trade package for Dwight Howard, it seems like that would have been the riskiest move of this entire draft because of Drummond's still developing potential. It's
right, you're trading.
Most polite way I can put it.
You're trading for an asset, not even knowing if you will then be able to trade that asset, which was a double risk. Like instead, Daryl went the other way. I would argue that he took 3 of the most reliable picks in the draft. I'm not a huge Jeremy Lamb fan, but at number 12, I liked it. I loved Royce White, and you initially broke my heart in the mock draft we did, Chad, and then Daryl broke my real heart, and then I thought Terrence Jones at 18. Why do you think Dallas passed up on Terrence Jones? I thought for sure they were going to take him.
I think that's a great question. And that's what I've been hearing as well. I don't know the answer to that one. I didn't talk to Dallas last night. But I want to get back to the Rockets for a second because you can't tell me that Daryl Morey's strategy all along is, look, I've got a bunch of middling players. I have a bunch of players on my roster who were drafted somewhere in the mid-first round who are average. And what I need is 3 more of those guys. And, in fact, what I really need is 2 guys who are a lot like the guy that I took last year, a 4-3 kind of hybrid forward who plays sometimes like a guard and sometimes like a power forward. I need 3 of those guys. and then I'll take another guy, Jeremy Lamb, who's kind of like Courtney Lee and kind of like Kevin Martin. That'll help us. That'll put us over the top. They've got a bunch of solid players, and none of those guys move the needle at all for the Rockets next year. If this is the team that Daryl's going to war with, Daryl Morey's going to war with next year, you can't tell me they've now are 5 games better than they were last year with the addition of Jeremy Lamb, Royce White, and Terrence Jones. Marcus Morris couldn't even get on the floor for them last year.
Yeah, but
and that was their lottery pick.
But last year's draft wasn't very. I'm not going to defend Daryl, but last year's draft wasn't very good. I feel like Royce White's much better than Morris was. The other thing is, I don't think this Rockets team, the way the roster looks right now, is the team that it's going to be in October. I haven't talked to him, but it just seems like he's trying to stockpile assets and figure out, how to then parlay those assets into another asset would be my guess, right?
Well, look, let's have this discussion, because I still believe, after everything that I've said, this is not done. He lost the battle on draft night to a certain extent, because I think he wanted to make a bigger splash than he did. But he still did what he was trying to do, which is the other thing he was trying to do, which is collect assets.
Yep.
I still can't think of a team that is in the Dwight Howard hunt that can offer a better package than the Rockets can for Dwight Howard.
And not just that, but he has twice as many assets as any of the other possible teams, unless the Lakers put Bynum on the table, and then that changes everything.
Right, or unless Dwight Howard said he'd go to the Clippers, and then the Clippers could put together by far, I think, the most compelling package for Dwight Howard. But if those two stay out of it, then Dallas doesn't have Jack, and what the Nets can put together isn't nearly as compelling as saying, hey, look, I'll give you a starting point guard, Kyle Lowry. I'll give you a young 2-guard who might be good in the league, in Jeremy Lamb. Take your choice of these hybrid forwards that I have. You want Royce White, you like Terrence Jones, maybe you like Marcus Morris. Take one of those guys, and then you've got your they've got Ryan Anderson there, and we'll give you a future first-round pick. That's better. I know that doesn't sound like a great offer for Dwight Howard, but that's frankly better than what the Nets can offer, and I think it's better than what the Mavs could offer.
I mean, you could throw in Luis Scola too.
You could throw Scola in, yes, absolutely.
I don't think Royce White is going to be on the table for Daryl.
Okay.
I think that was
for Dwight Howard. You're saying Royce White's untouchable and a Dwight Howard.
No,
deal?
I'm saying I just think Orlando would have taken him if they liked Royce White. Wouldn't they have taken him at what pick were they? 19? Oh, I guess they couldn't have taken him. I screwed that up. No. I thought Royce White should have gone higher than 16 because all of these different teams liked him. And if anything,
they're afraid of it.
Well, but we talk about like teams that maybe screwed up or took the run. Like to me, Philly made the biggest mistake at 15. Looking at it today, they took the St. John's kid, who everybody compares to Trevor Ariza. I feel like they could have gotten that kid at 21, 22, 23, whereas you had, I think Dallas liked Royce White. I know the Celtics liked Royce White. I think Denver liked Royce White, and Houston obviously liked Royce White. It seemed like he should have gone 14 or 15 instead of just dropping to Daryl at 16, in my opinion. But you don't agree?
Look, I think you can make the argument that he should have went 8 to the Raptors. I mean, if you're going to reach for Terrence Ross, why not reach for Royce White? In a lot of ways, it's been a more interesting pick. For Toronto, and may have actually fit a better need for them than Terrence Ross did, because I really felt, I've been gauging all year, is this a good draft? Is this not a good draft? Where does it fit? But after Harrison Barnes goes off the board at 7, I sort of looked at the rest of the draft and, okay, these guys are okay. I mean, there's a lot of solid players here. Royce White, at least you could make the argument with Royce White, he's the most intriguing of those solid players.
Yeah, the highest ceiling.
Right? He's got this, we don't know what it is because he's such an unusual player, but he's so intriguing, and there's so many things that you like about him, and he's also a little dangerous, and I think actually that's some of the appeal to it.
Yeah.
I mean, if Toronto would have taken him at 8, I don't think I would have felt any differently about it than anybody else that they would have taken at 8. Frankly.
Or they could have gone they could have done traded back 4 spots, picked up 12 and 16 or 12 and 18, and taken him there. But
Yeah.
how good is?
And then they could have had Andre Drummond, or the other guy that the Rockets really coveted, ironically, was Austin Rivers, and they could have gotten him there. Yeah, of course.
How good is this Lithuanian kid that is coming to Toronto next year? Like, if he had been in this draft,
He would have been number 2.
he would have been number 2.
Wow.
Number
He
2?
would have, hands down, number 2 pick in the draft.
Really? Who is he like then?
And I think everyone feels like he should have been the number 2 pick in last year's draft, and hands down. And the reason he dropped in last year's draft was because there were some interesting contract issues where it was very unclear when he was going to be able to come over. They knew for sure, everybody knew for sure he wouldn't be able to come over that year. And it's hard to take a player at 2 or 3 that isn't going to come over in a year.
Yeah, but
there was questions.
Cleveland should have taken him, though.
Oh, Cleveland messed it up, and I mean, they'll probably never admit it, but I think they know that they did because they loved him. They were as high on him as any team in the league, and as it got into the last final minutes of the draft, they began to panic a little bit because his agent didn't really want him to go there. He wanted them to go to Toronto, and so he was really giving them a runaround about when the kid was going to come over and how many years it was going to be or whatever, and they just decided we can't risk this, and they went with Tristan Thompson. And as it turns out, Valanciunas is going to come over next year, and he was great. I'll tell you where he was great was in the summer international tournaments where we saw him against other college players and dominated. And, the other players sort of his age just dominated. He's a real center who is skilled and can really do just about everything, and his size. He's still young and raw, but I'm not saying when he comes over to the Raptors, he's going to be averaging 20 points a night. He's not going to do that. But he's a real center with real potential, and, yeah, he would have been the number 2 pick in the draft. And the Rockets are pretty stoked that they've got him. Or, sorry, the Raptors.
So do you think is he somebody that could play with Bogdani, or was that a bad match?
Well, sure, because Bargnani doesn't rebound, and Bargnani wants to shoot threes. I mean, that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Valanciunas is a back-to-back.
Oh, perfect. That's nice then. So you get those 2 guys, and then it really sounds like this Nash thing might have some legs. Like if you're Nash, Toronto's going to do something crazy, like give you 4 years for $35 million or some insane offer. Like, you got to consider it, I think.
I think you do, and and I do think the compelling reason for the Terrence Ross pick was that he of the wings, he was the best shooter. DeMar DeRozan can't shoot at all.
Yep.
And he was the best shooter, and they're bringing in a big guy, and they want to spread the floor, and I think they're eyeing Nash, and they want a player that can run the floor, and Terrence Ross is super athletic. I mean, he can really run the floor, and a guy that can spot up and hit threes. Terrence Ross's weakness is that he doesn't have an in-between game. He doesn't really create his own shot. He doesn't get to the basket. He's either shooting the 3 or running the floor. But if Steve Nash is your point guard, then we'll like this Terrence Ross pick a lot better. The whole team will start to make a little bit more sense.
How do you feel about Steve Nash returning to his old country on the Toronto Raptors? I really like it. I don't want him to stay in Phoenix. Phoenix doesn't deserve Steve Nash.
No,
I'm not saying their fans don't deserve him, but after the Sarver and all the ways they screwed up over the years, he should leave.
Yeah, it's his time now to leave Phoenix. I like Toronto. The more that I'm listening to this little narrative here, it sounds like Toronto put a lot of eggs in the Steve Nash basket, though. I mean, reaching for Ross at that 8 slot.
Well, they must know something. Chad, they must know something, right?
Well, look, Brian Colangelo was the guy who stole him from Dallas.
Yes.
He was the guy who met him at 12:01, blew away Mark Cuban with their offer. Cuban was completely unprepared for what Nash was going to get offered. And he's been successful when he won. So whether he knows something or just the fact that he's done this before and he had a successful pitch, and he thinks he's going to do it again. And look, he's got a great narrative about Toronto. He doesn't have a great narrative about his team. I don't know that Nash and a rookie center that's coming from overseas, and Andrea Bargnani, and not a lot at the small forward position, and DeRozan and Terrence Ross at the 2 is enough to make the Raptors a super compelling team, but maybe enough to make the Raptors a playoff team. And frankly, that's better than what the direction the Suns are headed.
Well, here's what really interests me. It's just realistic enough that they could get Pau Gasol somehow.
Oh.
Because they have the Bargnani piece. Bargnani makes, I think, like $9 or $10 million next year. Gasol makes like 18. They have the Jose Calderon expiring contract.
Yep.
They could potentially take Gasol and Artest back in a trade for Calderon expiring and Bargnani and a future number 1 or whatever, and you just
throw DeRozan or something.
Wow.
Yeah, throw DeRozan and whatever, and just basically your goal is to get Gasol, the Lithuanian kid, Steve Nash, Ross, and then maybe now hey, Ray Allen, want to come shoot threes with Steve Nash? Any interest? You really could have something there. And the other thing with the Nash, and this is I have no inside information on this, and don't read between the lines. It's just a gut feeling. I just think he's worth more to them than anyone else. Like Nash probably has 2 seasons left at a high level, maybe 3, the way the conditioning is at this point in time. But Toronto doesn't care. They're paying the tax. How else are they going to get a good free agent? This is their one chance to get a marquee guy, put a guy in the program, put a guy on all their tickets, ad campaigns, the whole thing. Toronto is a joke in Toronto. I mean, the Raptors are a joke. Like, they haven't had a meaningful moment since Vince Carter left. So they have to do this. Whatever. Name your price, Steve Nash. 4 years, $40 million, fine. Whatever. You double his pay, double whatever he's worth, because you have to get him. Do you agree, Joe House?
I agree. I love every aspect of that whole thing. You have not walked me through any of that before, and this is the first time I've heard this little gambit. I think it's brilliant, especially in the East. Think about that shift. I mean, that team immediately becomes like a 4-5 seed in the East. They're at least as good as Orlando.
Chad, I mean,
100% endorse it. And,
all right. You don't care if you overpay him, right?
Have to.
I think you can overpay Steve Nash because of what it will do to your team. They'll sell out immediately. Every game, all their season tickets will sell out. They'll be relevant again. And, if you end up eating the last couple of years of that deal because Nash declines, what it would have bought you in the first 2 years in just relevancy of the team, it will be worth it. I agree. They should overpay. If the Raptors don't give him the biggest offer of any other team, I think they've screwed up.
And also, all right, let's say you get 2 good years out of him, and then he declines in 3 and 4 and kind of hits that Jason Kidd last 2 years in Dallas type of stage of his career. 1, the way he shoots, even if he lost a step, he's still an asset. 2, he's like having a coach. You're basically like overpaying, like having a second coach, somebody who all he does is transform the culture of your team, whether he's your best player or your 9th best player.
Yeah, so he makes all those youngsters better.
3, you have a Canadian hero. In my opinion, they can't overpay him. If 4 years, $40 million, I'm fine with it. I actually think that's a bargain.
It's almost as compelling as like, what if Golden State had Jeremy Lin? Think about that.
Yeah, true. That is true. And then the other thing with Nash
will be bigger. Nash would be bigger, and why not? While you're at it, say, look, you want to coach afterwards? I promise you, I'll give you the coaching job whenever you're ready. You want to be the GM? Of the franchise afterwards, we'll do that. I mean, teams do that.
Or we'll give you a cut of the team.
Part of the franchise. Yeah, keep the franchise. We are going to keep you part of the franchise for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and the other really interesting thing is you could say, all right, who are the other suitors that could potentially, it would be worth it for them to overpay Nash? I think Portland's a really good example, but they just spent the 6th pick on Lillard. They're not going to then go overpay Steve Nash. And Portland's a team that I think he might have considered because of the Pacific Northwest. It's right near Vancouver. Vancouver doesn't have an NBA team. If you look at all right, he's going to piggyback on one of the contenders. What contender? What is he going to take $1 million to try to chase a ring with LeBron and Wade? He would never do that. He's not going to play for the Knicks.
Wait. Why are you dismissing that? I wouldn't call that chasing a ring, first of all.
I don't think he's wired like that. If he wanted to chase a ring, he would have done that the last couple of years.
It's weird to call it chasing a ring. He gets to play with 2 of the 5 best players in the game.
Well, I hate to I hate to put it in these terms, but I just don't think if he could make $40 million in Toronto versus a 2-year, $2 million contract with Miami.
I mean, I understand.
I just think at some point it's common sense. And I can't think of, Chad, is there any other suitor you can even think of? I guess New Jersey maybe could overpay him, or I'm sorry, Brooklyn?
All I keep thinking in my mind right now is that the minute Mark Stein hears this podcast, it is going to be like he found photos of his girlfriend on the internet with some other man.
I know.
He's going to feel so betrayed that we ended up talking about Steve Nash.
I didn't mean it.
His man crush.
I know.
I think we should delete this whole segment because Stein will not speak to either of us again for the longest time.
I'm all for. I vote for when as long as it's not a move that could really hurt the Celtics' chances. I'm all for moves that make teams more fun. And I look at that Toronto team, and it's had no identity now for 9 years since the first year Vince Carter started tanking, and you get Nash, all of a sudden I'd be totally in on the Steve Nash returns to Canada thing. I think that'd be the most fun storyline of 2012-13.
It's a great story.
The most fun news storyline, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Bill, I think you're brilliant. I think you understand. And look, let me say one other thing. Players at the end of their contract, and I know Steve Nash is a different type of guy, but I still think he's a rational human being. They recognize this is the last time I'm going to earn a paycheck like this in my life.
Absolutely.
And so money matters. It really does, because this is it. My earning power after this dramatically declines, and I really think that is the other thing that the Raptors would have going in their corner. If they outbid everyone else, it's also just a financial decision by Nash on his very last contract, the last time he's ever going to get paid. And look, they can outbid Phoenix. We know that. There's no way they can't outbid Phoenix. And I think that whatever your team is, the Nets or whatever, Toronto, you said $40 million. I wouldn't have a problem if they offered him $50.
Yeah, they won't. But I think 40 will do it. I guess Brooklyn would be the only super duper dark horse, because Nash likes New York City. They need to put somebody who is. Brooklyn, who are they going to put on the poster? If Darren goes to Dallas, what do they do?
Marshawn.
Hey, it's Marshawn Brooks and Gerald Wallace. Anybody? I don't know what they do. Chad, what are you hearing? What's their plan B?
They're going to sign Mirza Teletovic. That's what they're going to do.
I don't even know who that is.
You'll find out.
The Chad player.
This Saturday. This is run by the Russians now. Look, the Nets will be. The Nets are going to have a honeymoon in Brooklyn. Doesn't matter who they put on the poster. They're the Brooklyn Nets.
Totally agree.
And they're going to have a honeymoon, and they know it. And bringing in Nash isn't going to necessarily give them the same bump that it would in Toronto. I actually think I think Darren's going back there. I really do. I think Darren's going to go back to Brooklyn. And two, I think they'll probably piecemeal a team together for another year on 1-year contracts so that they have the money just to sign Dwight Howard. I think Dwight Howard wants to go there. I think he wants to play with Darren Williams. I think they'll just piece together a team for 1 year. Then they'll make their free agent move. And if Orlando doesn't trade him or whatever, or even if they do, they're going to come throw the max at him. And I think we'll see Dwight Howard in a Nets uniform. This is my prediction. Not next season, but the season after that.
All right, I'm betting you dinner, because I think both of those guys go to Dallas.
Okay.
I really do. And here's my smoking gun with this whole thing. You'll like this house.
All right.
I'm throwing out some good theories today.
I'm skeptical, by the way. I see them. I'm with Chad.
Lamar Odom takes one of the most egregious dumps anybody has ever taken an NBA team for all of last season. You could not have been less professional than Lamar Odom was last year in the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks did not say a peep. They never threw him under the bus. They never leaked stuff. They never said anything. They just it didn't work out. They took the high road through and through. Lamar Odom's agent, Jeff Schwartz. Darren Williams' agent, Jeff Schwartz. Done. That's my case. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not buying it.
And Jason Kidd's agent.
And Jason Kidd's agent. I I just think it was very suspicious.
Let me tell you one other tip. Mirza Teletovich's agent.
Yeah.
Want to guess?
Jeff Schwartz?
Jeff Schwartz.
Oh, what does that mean? Now you flip my theory on me.
Look, Jeff Schwartz wins either way. Honestly, he wins either way. So, I good theory. I definitely think Dallas is strongly in the mix. I just think he goes back. But if he went to, for a long time, I thought Dallas was going to get him. But the problem is, I don't see how Dallas gets them both now. But financially, it's such a challenge to do that. But maybe you're right.
Do you think that Dwight Howard would have rather played with Harrison Barnes or Gerald Wallace? Because that's basically what it came down to, right?
Harrison Barnes, especially with a big man, you want shooters around him.
Yeah, for half the price, too.
For half the price, not guys who are great. Look, Gerald Wallace, 2 years ago, I really liked Gerald Wallace. He's a great athlete, and he's a tough guy, and he defends and does all those things. But players that have declining athleticism, that get into the 30s, and their main attribute as a player is great athleticism,
yep, it
gets ugly quick.
Yeah.
And the guys that age well are guys that do something else really well that doesn't require maintaining that athleticism.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. This is a great draft podcast, by the way.
Oh, I know. We've gone in all kinds of directions.
You've moved on. You went past the 2013 draft to free agents.
Well, Joe and I talked about this before. I was so happy that Charlotte just did the right thing and took the second best player in the draft with the number 2 pick. It's pretty sad that counts as a victory in 2012, but obviously both of us love Kidd-Gilchrist.
We were all shocked. Think about this, Bill. Not one person that I saw predicted that the Charlotte Bobcats would do the right thing.
Yeah. that they would take the second best player in the draft with the number 2 pick. Nobody saw it coming. We're like, whoa, hey!
There wasn't a mock draft out there that I saw from any of the writers and any of the national people who were doing this that had Michael Kidd-Gilchrist going to. In fact, the reaction when they did it was, oh, they traded the pick, and how dumb of them to trade it. Or 2, what?
Yeah.
You're just so shocked to see Michael Jordan do the right thing. I agree with you. He did the right thing. And I think he's going to be, I think that was the right move. He's going to change the culture there. I think he's going to be better than people think. It's going to be a long process because Charlotte's a mess. But you always win when you take the best player.
Yeah, and for me, clearly MKG was the number 2 guy. I don't even think, you can't even rope me into an MKG versus Beal thing. MKG was the second best guy in this draft. And now that, look, Kemba Walker had a horrible rookie season statistically, and you could pick that apart. You could say they're a terrible team, just bad situation, or maybe he's not good, but they're at least putting together the type of character guys from winning programs in college that eventually might be able to turn it around, or am I being too idealistic?
It's gonna be a mess. Now, look, I will say one thing in Kemba Walker's defense. He's always been a kid who has started slow and gets better every year because he's a hard worker. And John Calipari talked about a couple of years ago when UConn was playing Kentucky out in Maui. John Calipari and Kemba Walker tore Brandon Knight and Kentucky apart.
Yeah.
Calipari said, look, when I went to recruit him, I didn't think he was good enough. I didn't think Kemba Walker was good enough to be a high D1 player. He was honest about it. I didn't recruit him the same way, and I was totally wrong. But then he said, the kid has gotten so much better. He's worked on his game. He's super competitive, and he wants to get better. And it's always a transition for these guys from the next level. And it was a big leap, I think, for Kemba Walker. But if he keeps working at it, I think 50% of your success in the NBA is you're a hard worker and you keep working at it. And I think Kemba Walker is that type of guy. So I think he's a maybe as there's, another starter. And maybe Bismack Biyombo's a maybe. I don't know. I watched him a little bit. It was hard to watch the Bobcats play. He does look like he can block shots.
And he does seem like he cares. But back to your point about Kemba. So now 40% of their starting 5 are people that have a phenomenal work ethic and are good teammates and huge competitors and really give a crap. It's not bad.
Yeah, well,
that's not a bad start.
And you add in this new coach who seems to have that same ethic. That we've seen only a little bit of him so far, but I like the things that he said. He seems like the right kind of guy for guys like Kemba and MKG.
And I think when you're the number 4 assistant at St. John's, that's a great training ground to run an NBA team. I think he's going to do great. Chad, explain that hiring to me in 2 sentences. This guy was not on the radar. Anyway, all right. We've reached the point of the podcast where you try to talk me off the ledge about the 2 Celtic picks. So
wait, you look. By the way, the back brace is in the mail.
Thank you.
And,
appreciate that.
Triple X.
I was fine with Sullinger. I actually wish they'd taken Sullinger at 22, not 21, because it would have been even more of like a value. But Fab Melo, now didn't average 6 rebounds a game at Syracuse. The spin on this potentially could be that the way they play their zone, he's the center in the middle, he's jumping out at guys, maybe he's not near the rim. All I know is that he didn't average 6 rebounds a game in college. And he didn't score 8 points a game in college. How bummed out should I be about this?
Well, at least they didn't take Miles Plumlee.
Oh, that's good. That made me feel better. Thank you.
I mean, it was so funny. I was talking to, I probably can't say who, but I was talking to someone on Celtics, and the day of the draft, and we were talking about the various bigs that were available because it was clear that the Celtics needed bigs, right? Yeah. And they hated Andre Drummond. And they were going through all the things they hated about Andre Drummond. They hated Meyers Leonard. Going through all the things they hated about Meyers Leonard. Then they got to Fab Melo. Said, well, at least he can block some shots and he can rebound a little bit. And then they said, and we hate him too, but we might take him. and if you could combine the Jared Sullinger, who actually knows how to play the game of basketball. He's a real basketball player. He's not just a big guy.
Yeah.
High basketball IQ. He really knows how to play the low post. Even sort of an old school basketball player in a lot of ways. And you could put him in Fab Melo's body, you would have the number 1 pick in the draft. But this is what you get in the 20s. You get half of what you want.
Yep.
Right? You either get the basketball IQ, and I'm a player, but physically I'm not an NBA caliber athlete, or I'm a great athlete who has no clue how to play basketball. And Danny Ainge, maybe, Need Noggle, the brain doctor, is going to figure out a way to meld those 2 players together into one. Because Danny got the number 1 pick in the draft if he could just merge Fab Melo and Jared Sullinger into the same player.
I really like the Sullinger pick for where after 20 it was a no-brainer to take him. And I guess my dad summed up the Fab Melo pick best, saying at least he'll be better than Ryan Hollins. So I think of him in those terms. It's kind of uplifting.
I think that's wishful thinking.
Oh, you think it's wishful thinking? Oh my God, no! Oh my God, no!
The thing that I don't have an answer for, and you haven't been able to explain to me, what's that mean for Steamsma? Didn't Steamsma really?
A free agent. I think they're worried they might lose Steamsma.
Maybe they might.
Steamsma played hurt all last season. I'm going to defend Steamsma to the death. Steamsma had really bad plantar fasciitis and couldn't practice and was just playing games. That's it for the last 3 months. I think I would re-sign him. I like the Steamer. You get the Steamer and Melo.
The reason he had bad plantar fasciitis is because at no level of basketball had he ever played that many minutes before in his life.
All right, Chad. The truth hurts. I'll be the first one to admit it. What really hurt the Celtics last night, I mean, think about in the 80s and the 90s and even some of the drafts in the early 2000s. You always have 3 or 4 teams that just screw up, and you have you take who had the 15th pick last night? Philly. Philly just randomly taking say the kid from Vanderbilt, the shooting guard that went 24.
John Jenkins.
You always have 3 or 4 of those, and then somebody like Terrence Jones falls to the 21st pick, and you go, oh my God, that's ridiculous. How does he fall to the 20? We didn't have that last night. the top 20 picks kind of went exact. Was there one guy in the top 20 that you felt like didn't deserve to be in the top 20?
I think there's an irrational exuberance over Meyers Leonard. I think he's a bigger project than people think. I think he's the guy that people got, really excited about in the workouts because he's such a great athlete. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. But I'll say here's the thing that always amazes me. You got teams like the Thunder, and you just know when Perry Jones starts sliding, he's going to go to them because somehow these teams get the break. And, if Perry Jones is taken in the top 10, you kill the team that takes him in the top 10. If Perry Jones goes 11 to 20, you're like, it's okay. It's an okay pick there. If Perry Jones goes in the 20s, you take him.
Yep.
I don't even care if his knee injury is worse than just a meniscus issue and he has to have some work done on his knee. You take him in the 20s because the upside is absolutely amazing, and the downside in the 20s is what? Most players in the 20s don't make it anyway. And how is it that the Thunder are the only team that figured that out?
Yeah, I wanted the Celtics to take him at 22. All three of us, House, Jacoby, and I last night, we all agreed. I just feel like
back injury and a knee injury together.
Well, here's the thing, though. You go 1 for 2. Maybe you go 1 for 2, but when you get the 1, you're getting a lottery pick. Either of those guys healthy is a lottery pick, or not healthy, but not just healthy, but reaching their potential, I guess is the better way to put it. And they were trying to trade up to get to number 10 or number 8 or wherever anyway. So just take the 2 guys who could have. I would have been fine with that. I feel like you can get Fab Melo every year in free agency. Those guys are out there.
The other thing is, it was perfect for Perry Jones. Could you think of 2 players you would rather have mentor him than Kevin Durant, who's his size and is a lot more aggressive offensive player, and Serge Ibaka, who's his size, who plays defense with passion and block shots or whatever. I mean, those are the 2 perfect people to be around Perry Jones to actually teach him what he should be doing on the court. And I think you put him in the Thunder incubator for 3 years, assuming that, this knee injury isn't some sort of injury that's going to, ruin his career, and they may have done it again. I love that pick because I love the Thunder culture. I love what they do. I love the right sort of players around him, and I love that even he was humbled a little bit by sliding into the 20s. That may have been my favorite pick of the whole night.
I agree with you, and you made the key point there. The fact that he went 28th was the best thing that could happen to him. We see that happen in sports all the time. You think you're hot SHIT, and people are making excuses for you all the time. And had he gone 9th, it just would have justified the way he kind of mailed it in the last 2 years a little bit. Now as a wake up call. On top of it, you've been to an Oklahoma City practice, right? No team practices harder than that team. That team goes every practice like it's Game 7 of the finals. That guy is not going to be able to coast in Oklahoma City. They'll get him out. And Durant and Westbrook and Harden, those guys, as you said, they have a real culture. I don't think you can be a straggler on that team.
Well, I don't want to rub it in, but I actually think most of this rationale also applies to the Celtics. I think he would have been great in the Celtics.
Yeah, I do.
With Doc and those guys, exactly.
I think Doc would have been great. I don't know if the city of Boston would have been great for him, but I can tell you this, the city of Boston isn't going to be great for Fab Melo. It's not going to go well. I'm throwing that out there now. I'm going to say this is not the ideal match. We kind of went down this road once upon a time with AC Earl, who had a different type of game than Fab Melo did. But if you're kind of a goofy big guy who might get into trouble maybe once or twice off the court, it's not going to go great in Boston. So hopefully Fab will keep his head clean. But yeah, I'm with you. Perry Jones, great pick. So that was your favorite pick. What was your least favorite pick? And then we'll let you go.
Miles Plumlee.
Wow.
Look, I mean, I'm not going to be super passionate about somebody in the 20s, but if you're a Duke for 4 years and your best season, you average 6 points and 7 rebounds a game, I'm not getting it. Now, look, I saw him work out. He is a freak athletes. But if you watched a lot of Duke, you saw glimpses of that, but you're generally sort of surprised. You wouldn't say, oh, he's more athletic than Andre Drummond, or he's more athletic than Dwight Howard, even though he tested better than both of those guys at the Chicago Combine. And I think this is the problem with the workout wonders. Just because you can run and jump in a workout doesn't mean that you can use those skills to help you be a better basketball player. Sometimes it just doesn't translate. And it reminds me of Joe Alexander a few years ago that came out of West Virginia. He had this scar on his forehead where he hit his forehead on the rim dunking a ball. And, everybody couldn't stop talking about, like, oh, my gosh, we've got to draft this guy because he's hit his forehead on the rim. I just think if you can in 4 years in college average more than 6 points and 7 rebounds a game, you don't deserve to be a first-round draft pick.
You just made me feel worse about Fab Melo. I don't know. Somehow this Miles Plumlee rant made me feel worse about Fab Melo.
He was a sophomore. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I guess. I still feel bad. You know what's interesting about you, Chad? You've done a 180 on workouts. You used to love workouts.
Yeah,
you still have Yijin Lan's chair in your house.
Well, look, here's the thing. Smart people learn from their mistakes.
Yes.
And I admit when I first started doing this and I was young, I was impressed by that, and I hung around a lot of GMs and scouts that were impressed by it, and I thought it meant something.
Yeah.
And it only took a few drafts for me to realize that it didn't mean anything, and that unfortunately there's this culture in the NBA that just is a kind of a herd mentality, and you just sort of do the same thing over and over again, and there's just a lot of people who still believe in that. Look, I don't believe in any of that anymore. I don't even understand why teams won't draft a player who refuses to come in to work out. What you scouted him for X number of years in all these games, now he won't come out and do some drills with you on the floor, so I can't take him now. Or because Jeremy Lamb sprained his ankle and couldn't work out. Well, we just don't know anymore about Jeremy Lamb. We're not sure that we can take him anymore, even though he has an injury that'll be fine in 2 weeks, because he didn't come in and work out for us. I think that a lot of teams are stuck in the Stone Age from 20 years ago, and there's some teams that are not, like the Thunder and the Spurs, for example, and they have figured out what's real and what's not real. And it doesn't mean they'll get it right 100% of the time, because it's possible to get it right 100% of the time, but you can start to filter out the white noise. And I think the workouts are white noise.
Well, maybe that's the theme for this year's draft, because you know who else learned from his mistake?
Who?
Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He took the second best player with the number 2 pick.
He made a lot of mistakes, too. Many more mistakes than you, Chad.
Yeah.
And he made them in workouts. Many of those classic Jordan stories are Kwame versus Tyson Chandler. The day before the draft, where Kwame kicks Tyson Chandler's butt and tells Michael Jordan, "You'll never regret it if you draft me with the number 1 pick."
Right.
It's Adam Morrison coming into the gym with Bill Simmons on the sideline cheering as Adam Morrison sinks every shot and looks like a young Larry Bird, and Brandon Royce White gets in really late, and he's tired and he's exhausted from other workouts, and he comes into the Bobcats workout and he just isn't really that good, and he isn't on, and Michael Jordan walks away and says, "Well, look at the 2 guys. I'm taking Adam Morrison," and forgetting all the other things that matter. And I think in this case, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, not a great workout guy.
Right.
Watch what he did in the game.
I just want to say, for the record, I even wrote this. I thought Brandon Roy was the best player in the draft that year. But Morrison was my second best favorite player. And I'm going to say this. If he doesn't blow out his knee, Adam Morrison's a 5-time All-Star. You can't prove me wrong. You said bad luck.
Hey, since we're on the record, I want to say for the record that in 2003, I thought LeBron James was the best player in the draft.
Nice.
My favorite player was Darko Milicic.
Yeah, that's true. I think we've all learned. The biggest thing I've learned over the years, I feel like I'm getting a little better at the evaluation, but I'm still not great, as evidenced by liking Derek Williams more than Kyrie Irving last year, or at least thinking he was a safer pick. But I think I've learned not to overvalue what happens in the NCAA tournament. Has been the biggest way I've grown as a draft critic. Because it's too random. You could get hot for 3 games, and that shouldn't be able to swing somebody's feeling. Like, I do think, like, Royce White, what he did to Kentucky in that game last year was really interesting. Now, that's something where you go, all right, this guy was playing against six first and second round picks and was the best guy on the floor. That has to mean something. But for the most part, it's too easy to overreact with the tournament.
Well, look, and all psychological studies say that when human beings make decisions based off of limited amounts of information, that's when they make mistakes. The more information you gather and the more that you can hold all of it together, the better the decision-making process would go. And that's why you don't want to overvalue the tournament or work at it. It should be a piece of information.
Yep.
That fits into the larger thing, but psychologically it's hard for us because those are dramatic moments in the tournament. Or the first time I see the guy live in my gym with my coach going up against another guy, those are psychologically dramatic moments for people, and we overvalue that piece of information over all of the information that you've collected, and it takes a lot of discipline. And trust me, it's still, like for me, it takes a lot of discipline because I still go watch these guys work out, and it's enticing to me. It takes a lot of discipline to just say, look, this is a piece. This isn't the whole thing. And I think some teams really have figured that out, and some teams are still go with their golden gut.
Presti told me something interesting once. He said his favorite way he thought the most underrated thing with how he scouts is he would go watch the guys practice with their college teams. And he would just go to a practice and watch what the guy's work ethic was like, how he interacted with his teammates, how he listened to his coach, because it's easy to seem in a workout like you're an awesome guy and but if you're just in everyday practice, a random Tuesday in January, and you're dealing with classes and you're between games and all this stuff, he thought that was the most interesting way to look at who's who. And I remember like the Oklahoma City practice I went to, it was just a random day in December. Durant and Westbrook were just killing themselves in this practice, and they're doing back and forth. And you could have been an alien and gone in there and gone, wow, these guys really care about basketball. I thought that was interesting, though. Maybe that's part of the, when you talk about assembling things, that's a piece, too.
It's exactly right. And look, when I go to these games, Bill, with 40 NBA scouts, there'll be me and like 6 scouts out there watching even warm-ups and practices, and the rest are, in the back eating food or in the media room or whatever. It's hard work. And by the way, the hardest worker will still get it wrong. And, because you can't always get it right. And there's some amazingly talent evaluators in the NBA, and there's some not so good ones. And by the way, analytics is a big part of this now too.
Yep.
And like teams like the Cavs, the 2 straight years in a row at 4, they've taken a guy that other people thought would go considerably later. And one of the reasons they've done that is because Tristan Thompson tested off the charts analytically. Dion Waiters tested off the charts analytically. The numbers suggested that I think John Hollinger told me that the closest comparison from a PER, his player rating saying for Dion Waiters, was Dwayne Wade.
Oh.
Like they scored the closest analytically. The computer thought they were the 2 most similar players. And now look, if you just did that, you'd make a mistake. But if you go and watch the guy and then you see why that might be, and what are the attributes, through the visual scouting. But I think the numbers, our eyes can lie to us, and numbers can lie to us too. But when you combine the two together, it's harder to make a mistake.
Hollinger's player rating, I think, gave Mason Plumlee like a -10. It didn't even have minus, but it spat out a minus number for him somehow. Chad Ford, take a break, man.
Get some sleep.
Go on vacation.
Tomorrow.
Go on vacation. Just
tomorrow. Don't
think about the draft for a while. You did a great job. As always, a pleasure doing business with you, and loved reading you this week. Thanks for everything.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
See you.
All right. That was Chad Ford. What was the most interesting thing you learned from the Chad Ford interview?
The most interesting thing I learned from the interview.
You were just captivated.
I was taking
Toronto stuff.
I was really.
Nash Toronto
I
stuff.
just love it. I think
you
it's
had like
tremendous.
a sparkle in your eye.
I'm really rooting for it. I'm really rooting for Nash and Gasol together. I just think that would be such a spectacular thing in the East. It would really make for an exciting team.
You know, we didn't talk like they had kind of an internationally type team anyway.
They still do.
Around there, and they had Linus Kliza.
Yeah, they have the most international team in the whole NBA.
DeMar DeRozan feels like he should be international. There's not.
There's
Amir Johnson.
Yeah.
I guess
I don't know.
Not really international, but they had a couple guys like that anyway. But and they had Barbosa there for a while. But I think that's at one point it was kind of like they wanted to get a little whatever, but it didn't work out. Nash should be. I think Phoenix is going to lose him, and then Phoenix immediately has the most depressing roster in the league.
I don't know. There's some teams.
Worse than Houston? Worse than Phoenix?
I mean, worse. Yeah, Charlotte's not very good.
At least they have Kidd-Gilchrist.
Yeah, that's just one guy, one cog.
If you were a fan, what roster would you not want right now the most?
Who's on the Bucks?
Bucks have Monte.
Oh, I like Monte.
Jennings.
Oh, I like both those guys.
John Henson, the 216-pound center.
Babyface John Henson.
Babyface John Henson. I would say Phoenix would have to be in the top 3.
Yeah, I agree.
For me.
It's a shame, too, because
Brooklyn,
we like the guys. There's good guys. Yeah.
Brooklyn, and if they don't do anything, would be in there.
Right. But that Brooklyn, it makes sense. I like very much the idea of them just waiting a whole nother year and then just go get Dwight Howard next year. And Darren goes back this year.
They planned last year around getting Dwight Howard, and then the last second he panicked and did a 180 on him.
Well, Well,
we'll see.
Yep.
Signing starts soon.
It starts at 12:01 a.m. Sunday. We're 24 hours-ish away.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I wish there were more good free agents, though.
Who's out there?
Well, the number 1 free agent is Darren Williams.
Yes.
The number 2 free agent, I don't even know who it's all like those Jeff Green type guys.
Yeah, right.
David Fox seemed to think Jeff Green was the number 2 free agent, which I don't agree with.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know who the other free agents are, but I don't think that's true.
There's a lot of guys.
All I know are restricted free agents. There are like no unrestricted free agents.
Yeah, there's like the Eric Gordon, a lot of those type of guys.
Yep.
But those guys always just end up going back to their old teams.
Right.
For the most part. There's like the Darren Collison type of guys. Or I think he might even be restricted. But for the Celtics, I want KG to come back.
Is Ray unrestricted?
Yeah, he's going to go to
So
Miami.
he's the second.
Feels like Miami for him.
Isn't he the second best?
I said this when it happened. When he was shaking every hand on the Miami, every Miami player, coach, the scorekeeper, the freaking cheerleaders, I knew something was up. It was like that scene in, I'm dating the audience, but The Godfather when Abe Vigoda, at the funeral, you see Abe Vigoda like shaking hands with with Barzini or whatever, and you're like, oh, Abe's up to something. That's how I felt with Ray Allen watching it. He was way too excited to congratulate everybody in Miami. But I'm fine with that because we have Avery Bradley. And now we have Fab Melo.
And there's talk about O.J. Mayo. Interesting.
Yeah, I like that talk.
It's good.
I'd like to have O.J. Mayo in the Celtics.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Right.
House, as always, a pleasure.
Yeah,
thanks
you.
for being in the peanut gallery last night.
I enjoyed it.
Thanks for overeating. Thanks for passing out.
I love your mom's meatballs.
They're great.
Thanks to your mom.
America, enjoy the weekend. We will talk to you soon.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.